Hi, welcome to today's American Association for Respiratory Care Perspective podcast, live from the AARC Congress in Orlando, Florida. Today we're here with AARC board member Terry Miller and Wyoming Society for Respiratory Care delegate Lori Arnold. Thank you both for joining us today and discussing HOSA and your work in growing our partnership and impact with that organization and students in general. We really appreciate it. Terry, can you give us a little history about why AARC got involved with HOSA and how it's helping to grow the RT profession?
I sure can. Thank you. One of the things that the AARC recognized is the importance of our sharing what the role of the respiratory therapist is. Sometimes, you ask the general public, they say, we don't know what respiratory therapy is as a profession. So as we looked at, well, how can we address this? We were facing a workforce shortage. President Hinkson, he actually developed a workforce recovery task force that and asked me to chair it so that we could explore some of those issues and also what we could do about it. As a part of that task force, a group of folks worked together as a collaborative group to see what we could do. We wanted to start things that could have an almost immediate impact, but also things that we could see some long-range return, because we're facing nationally a shortage of respiratory therapists. And our schools, our RT programs around the nation have had lower enrollment. So what could we do to bring respiratory therapists into the workforce? We've looked at a number of different areas that we could look at. We've gotten very engaged as the AARC in looking at the area health education centers programs, connecting with school counselors, working with the National Consortium for Health Science Education. But the one task we took up first was to develop an official relationship with HOSA, future health professionals. These are students that are in high schools and middle schools across the U.S. and in fact the world who are health science interested. They want careers in healthcare. And so respiratory therapy had been marginally involved in that area, is more of on the local level. So we decided we wanted to do a partnership with HOSA. So the AARC committed to being partners with HOSA, and we've taken it about a year and a half time. We have gone from not doing much at all to being full partners, premier partners with HOSA, to exhibiting at the national level, and to developing a plan that not only do we connect at the national level, but we also connect in our states and in our local levels to get active and involved with these health science interested students. It's just been a wonderful opportunity for us.
Thanks for all your work that you've been doing. What are some of the educational opportunities and programs the AARC offers to HOSA members?
Well, it's one of the things that we're in development. The first thing we recognize is that we have to let them know who we are. Last year, we attended the National HOSA International Leadership Conference and exhibited for the first time, did workshops to share about respiratory therapy. So in 1 year's time, we had students who didn't have an idea what a respiratory therapist was, saying what is respiratory therapy, and coming to explore at our exhibits, to students coming up to us saying, I want to be a respiratory therapist. And as a part of that, the AARC team has developed a lot of tools that HOSA advisors, that HOSA students can go directly to the AARC's website and learn about respiratory therapy, but also how they can engage with respiratory therapists locally and to use those tools to explore our career. We have developed competitions that HOSA students, if anybody knows about HOSA, their jam, so to speak, is all about competitions. And so we worked on developing respiratory therapy competitions that they can have in the states and then come up to the national level. And with that, they have round one and they have round two. Round one, we decided, rather than doing some type of test where you pull out Egan's and say, let me study Egan's, let me go instead, let's learn about respiratory therapy. So round one is about interviewing a respiratory therapist, exploring what being a respiratory therapist is, learning about some of those specialty areas that we work in, doing a presentation. And then round two, if they make it to round two, that's when they get to do some of those clinical skills. We've got 7 different clinical skills. They learn about practice, do hands-on, and then demonstrate. I was really excited to see in 1 year's time we had 40 HOSA competitors come to the International Leadership Conference in Houston this past June and compete in respiratory therapy. There is nothing I have experienced like seeing those students walk across the stage and receive awards and see respiratory therapy up there for 12,000 students to see. It was so exciting.
Do you think that was one of the highlights from last year, from you attending the conference and being part of that?
That honestly is one of the highlights of my career. I will just say that is one of the highlights of my career. I think working to build the future of our profession is one of the most important things I've ever worked on. And this is the thing, that's our future. When we see these students learn about respiratory therapy and get to see all the cool things that we do as respiratory therapists, they love it. And so that's what we want to do. We want to share about respiratory therapy at that local level back home in our states, because that's where it starts. In these states, these advisors in these schools, they need to connect with respiratory therapists out there that will come to the classroom that can share and share that message about what we do. Yes.
So how can someone get involved with HOSA locally, like you're talking about?
Well, getting involved with HOSA, I think it's wherever you are, there's a place for you. The way we designed this, how we would roll this out, actually HOSA, the organization itself, it aligns very much like the AARC. We have our national organization, the AARC, but a part of the AARC is our state affiliates. Like we are represented by our AARC House of Delegates, where each state is represented. Well, HOSA is the same. They have state HOSA groups and chapters that then have local chapters that are in the different schools around their state. And so these students in these high schools and all, they will work in the classroom in their local area, learn about the different topics in healthcare, compete at the state level, and then move up to the national level. So as a part of doing these competitions, there's opportunities. Number one, being available and ready to answer questions. They may be calling respiratory therapists around our nation wanting to do interviews. What is respiratory therapy? So being ready and willing, that's one of the things. Going to visit classrooms and offering your services as an RT to go in the classroom and share about respiratory therapy. There's nothing more exciting to some of these students than looking at a set of pig lungs and seeing the healthy lungs versus the diseased lungs and what that looks like. They get really jazzed about that. And then when they see things like airway management and intubation and exploring mechanical ventilation, they really get excited about it. So it's really that time. One of the things our school systems, our RT schools can do is have HOSA days where they invite local HOSA groups to come to their campus. And if they have simulation labs, giving them the opportunity to see neonatal, pediatric, and adult simulations and really get to experience what that role of the RT does, that is an experience I would encourage anyone to do. The AARC, we have actually developed tools that any school, any local hospital, because there's always good things that we can do to share. When there's state competitions, they may call you to judge. Judging, get to see them actually, this stuff in action is really cool opportunity.
So I guess that leads right into what Lori's trying to do in the state of Wyoming. Can you tell us a little bit about your work there and what you're trying to do?
So Wyoming is one of the only states that does not have a HOSA chapter. And being a CTE teacher or career and technical educator, I was very excited to get involved with this. So I have worked with the Wyoming state association of CTE teachers and trying to get this back and going. We don't want to be left out. Wyoming doesn't want to be left out. So I've met with the WACD organization. I presented to them the tools that are available on the AARC website and also through the HOSA website to show them what a benefit HOSA can be for our state. In our state, we health sciences is the number one pathway that students choose. So we have 1,200 students at our college that comes in to the health sciences pathway. Up until August of this year, we didn't have a respiratory program, so nobody even knew what respiratory was. So we have done some of those open houses, some of those demonstrating. We had 350 high school students beginning of October come in to see all of our fun and exciting things. And you're right, Terry, they love to play and see the excitement. I mean, and when you can tell somebody, a respiratory therapist can go anywhere and do anything. You can be on flight, you can be in the neonatal pediatric ICUs, you could go anywhere and do everything. So that was exciting to see that.
So what have been some of the challenges you've faced there in Wyoming?
So Wyoming high schools have to pay for every club or organization that they're into. So all of the school districts have to pay. And so that is a big challenge. So working with the WACD board to try and figure out how we can get HOSA in there, because at one point in time there was a HOSA chapter in Wyoming, but they dissolved it because they didn't think there was enough interest. Well, I kind of disagree. I mean, when you have 1,200 students going into a pathway at one community college, and we have 8 community colleges and then a university in Wyoming, and that's the biggest pathway, so I disagree. So I'm pretty active in trying to get it moving and get some teeth in the game and just move forward with it. Have a couple more meetings with WACD to accomplish those, but I'm working with one of our legislatures to see how she can help me and get it started.
How did you get connected with the person in the legislature to make that happen? That seems like such a great advocacy effort to undertake, especially when you're probably one of the few people.
Well, so I'm a lifelong learner. I took a class last summer and to learn how to be a better educator, and Dr. Michelle Aldrich spoke for one of our meetings one night, and I'm like, I need to talk to her. And so I've just connected with her and with the president of the WACD, and we've just, like I said, we've set some goals and we're moving forward, and we have some hurdles to get over, but we'll make it, I'm pretty sure.
So I guess you said you took a class too, but what other resources have you felt have been valuable kind of in your process of getting started with HOSA?
So there is a whole page on HOSA of resources. I mean, when I was getting ready to present to WACD, they sent me an entire presentation that I kind of modified to make it my own and make it Wyoming so that they can see what we were doing. And then AARC, I pulled lots of things off the AARC website, reached out to Terry because she's been such a big advocate. And if kids are in clubs in schools, they have a community, they feel that sense of community, and I think they go farther. I mean, I really do. So, and competition is always good when you can beat out your neighbor.
I think the community is the key word, because they find their people. Right?
Yep, they find their people.
Finding their people earlier.
Yep. I mean, you look, what other students are doing. I mean, in rural Wyoming, so we have FFA and speech. Those are our 2 big clubs, but yet we have 1,200 students in our local area coming to our health sciences. So we gotta spark that fire a little bit.
So that's kind of a good, I guess, key challenge that you're facing. And how does ARC kind of help promote just specifically respiratory therapy in your area and in Terry's, of course, too?
So we just started a brand new respiratory therapy program in Cheyenne at Laramie County Community College, and it has been huge to have that start. But then all of my clinical sites are so excited, and so we've partnered with some of our local hospitals to get respiratory out there. It's just growing, and I don't know. I love being a respiratory therapist, so I'm ready to share and share my passion and grow new ones. So,
I guess, Terry, what challenges do you see in like growing the profession? I mean, there's a lot, I know.
This is one of the things I think trying to grow the profession is about us just getting out there and being out there and sharing, not at the national level, but also locally, and finding ways to connect. When I think about what Lori has done in sharing not only about respiratory therapy, but what she's doing is also representing those other healthcare professions in her state. It's about engagement. You know, when we get out there in the workforce, we're all working together with all the different healthcare fields.
Absolutely.
And so that interprofessional collaboration beginning early, and when we're involved in that early, it makes a huge difference. So I applaud what she's doing because she's bringing our last state in there, and I'm so excited about that. But, you know, the challenges is just engagement. I think that's one of the things, spreading the word, getting respiratory therapists involved and helping them to get engaged in getting the word out. Sometimes we get really busy in what we do in the hospitals and our different careers that we're working on, that we might lose sight of how impactful it can be to connect with our middle school, high school students and share about how really cool our profession is. It does take a little extra, but when we do it, the dividends are enormous. I really have very high hopes for where this is going to go.
Do you have either one of you, I guess, like, because you're both educators, a success story from some of the students that you've worked with and they've gone on to, you know, they maybe didn't think about respiratory care and now they're like, I want to be a respiratory therapist. I know you've shared some with me just in conversation, but can you share any stories like that?
I can. So, I worked in a little teeny tiny critical access hospital up in Cody, Wyoming, and we did a middle school health reach camp, it was called, and that 8th grader graduated high school in May of this year. She is now taking prerequisites and she wants to be a respiratory therapist, and I asked her, she came through the lab on our sneak peek day, and I asked her, I said, so why respiratory? She says, you don't remember me? I'm like, no. She says, I remember you. She says, and she went to school with one of my boys, and she says, I remember you, and I remember how fun it was to be, to do the things you were doing. And so it is, I mean, it's come full circle, and it's good to see. I mean, like I said, never would I have thought this little 12, 13-year-old gal would be a student of mine, but she's ready, and she's like always coming up, and even though she's in her prereq, she wants to know and be involved. So
That's great. What a great story. Do you have any stories you'd like to share, Terry?
Well, you know, what I'm thinking about is one of my alumni from our respiratory program. She shared with me later on. She was one of the best students I've ever had. She is one of those go-getters that gets involved, very professional. She came into the program with some of those skills that you know, just made her just exceptional student. And it was later on that she said, well, you know, I was involved in HOSA back when I was in school. And she said, and I always wanted there to be respiratory therapy, so I went down another one of their competitive tracks. She said, but if I had the opportunity to have respiratory therapy as a part, I would have gone that way because y'all were where I really wanted to go, and which she did, and she has just gone on to be a leader. That's what we see. The programs that they have in HOSA specifically is not just about the skills. It's not just about exploring about the different career opportunities, but it's also about leadership development, about how to grow the individual as well as the professional. And I think that's one of the phenomenal things about HOSA.
That's great. What great stories. As we wrap up here, are there any other thoughts you'd like to share about the future of respiratory care and why you're an RT? You guys have shown me a lot of passion today about it. So.
Well, I am an RT because the first thing you do in life is breathe. The last thing you do in life is breathe, and I can touch your breath, every breath in between. So
That's great.
And I think this is just a very ripe opportunity for respiratory therapists. COVID kind of springboarded the profession into the limelight, and I think we need to capture that little spark that's out there and just keep promoting our profession, because we are a very important, integral part of the team.
As I think about our respiratory therapy profession, I think it's about spreading the words, because all of us respiratory therapists, we know what a privilege it is to serve at the head of the bed. We know what it feels like to be that one who helps make the difference in life's most critical situations. And when we share that message, we can bring others to be a part of who we are. I believe the respiratory therapy profession is on the cusp of being just a growth expansion. We are seeing growth in so many directions. There are pathways for our profession that go to all different directions. I'm really excited about the work the AARC is doing to grow our profession, to spread the word, and to support respiratory therapists. I'm looking very forward to what our president, Dana Evans, will do in the coming years, in fact, and where we go from here, because the opportunity is there and it's ours to take.
Thanks, Terry and Lori, for joining us today and sharing your work and your passion for HOSA and students across the board. If you're interested in learning more about how you can get involved, visit aarc.org and search HOSA. Thanks again.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Did I do all right?
You guys did great.